tell me the hidden message in Transformers.
So
Like, I know you just did a video about that.
of course, when I had originally seen the movie, I'm just like, oh, cool, man. They're doing a movie about the Transformers. This is great. More than meets the eye, right? Which is ironic. But
Yeah.
but I went back and watched it recently. And it's wild because, the Transformers themselves basically represent the fallen.
Yeah.
They represent the fallen.
They even have even one of the movies is called Revenge of the Fallen, and you're like,
exactly.
Oh, wow.
And of course, Megatron, the reference to Metatron, and then the cube, though, like the Allspark, like
Yeah.
it was. This is kind of what got everything turning for me, because I learned a couple of things. I came across a few articles and started absorbing all this, started digging, and then I went back and watched that. And when I watched the movie, there was a lot of references, a lot of things that I was like, oh man, like they're painting the story of like the fallen angels and the Nephilim and like all of that stuff, and this spiritual battle that's taking place. But when they got to the Hoover Dam specifically, like, come on, of all places they could have been hiding the Allspark and Megatron, it's at the Hoover Dam.
Yeah, why not like Area 51 or something like that?
Exactly.
Why would it be under a hydroelectric dam?
Exactly. So one interesting thing about that is, what's his name? Something Witwicky, kid's name, Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, okay.
And his great-grandfather, while exploring the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, of course.
That's the story. The Arctic Circle.
The place where there's a treaty and everyone's not allowed to go.
Right, exactly. So while exploring the Arctic Circle, which many believe that the Arctic Circle reference is literally referring to the entire ice wall, not just the anyway. So when he supposedly was exploring the Arctic Circle, whether that's an ice wall or North Pole reference, whatever, he discovered Megatron. And so it kind of starts with like a lot of the stuff that we would call conspiracy, and he was frozen. And so then they ended up finding him and taking him to the Hoover Dam and keeping him at the Hoover Dam and the Allspark at the Hoover Dam. And they explain it. They say, they give the timeline. They show that the way that it's in there. And I just got this weird feeling as I was watching it that, like, I think that there's so much truth to that whole story, because as they're walking him in to show him where the Allspark is, they show the giant black cube. It's got the hieroglyphics all over it. It's giant. And they're walking in, and it shows a plaque of these 7 people. And it mentions, these were the first 7. And that's all they say. And there's a bunch of references to that stuff too. I mean, we could spin this and go super deep, but I'll just like keep it really light for now. So maybe we can do another one in the future. But
yeah, there'll be more.
There will be more. But they mention the first 7. And, there are scriptures in Revelation that talk about the 8th. Literally, like they refer to the 8th.
Right.
And
the beast has 7 heads.
Right. So there's all these wild references, but they give the timeline, and they ultimately say that President Hoover wanted to build the dam around the Allspark with like 40 foot or 40 yard thick cement walls to keep the signal from being able to be detected from the outside, or what they call outer space. So just that whole story, like, that's such a specific storyline. Like, that's such a specific...
It's strange too. It's also strange too. It's funny because it's like, I'm a kid of the 80s, so I watched I love the original Transformers movie. Like,
totally, me too.
And so, like, obviously when they did the Michael Bay ones, I was kind of like, dude, I can't even tell which one's which. I don't like this. And and the storyline is like, it's so strange. Like, why didn't they go based on like the cartoon? And so like
because they had a story to tell.
So where did this story come from? And it's like the of course, as a kid, I knew about Megatron before I ever knew about Metatron.
Yep.
And I didn't realize like Metatron almost sounds more like a robot than Megatron.
Right.
Like Metatron. And then so when you find out like that, okay, so it's a movie about a black cube and Megatron, and then when you think about it, like the angels are sitting on black cubes, and also Metatron is like basically the leader of the angels, like obviously in the book of Enoch. I mean, I don't believe that's scriptural at all, but it's interesting.
That doesn't mean there's not truth in it, though.
Oh, right, but obviously Metatron has a cube, and it's a cube that's based on cosmic geometry in order to create things.
Yep.
And you're like, obviously, this is not coincidental that this stuff connects so easily. I almost was even thinking about like, oh wow, so Megatron's Frozen, and then we're just talking about Frozen 2.
Frozen, yes.
Frozen 2. It's like, hey, wait a minute. This, like again, it's like these kind of connections where it keeps coming back about like what is so significant about this place? Like, because honestly, it's like when you think about it, I can imagine if you drive up to the Hoover Dam, which sucks, I've never been there.
I've driven over it multiple times.
But I mean, like, I'm sure it's very impressive, and it's interesting that Oscar J. Hansen, the guy who sculpted the damn angels, created the star map and everything, he compared the Hoover Dam to the Great Pyramids, which is interesting because it was like, obviously you could say on one level you could say, oh well, it's big and it's lots of concrete, but at the same time it's always like, I think it obviously had more to do with than that, because obviously he puts the star map on there. A lot of people will say that the pyramids on the Giza Plateau are lined up with Orion's belt. You know, there's obviously a lot going on there, and it's like there's something significant about this place outside of it just being a dam. And if you really think about it as a movie set, is it really that impressive as far as like just the look of it? I mean, there's cooler places it could be, like that this movie could have took place than like visually than the Hoover Dam.
That's probably true, but as far as dams go, definitely not, because I've seen a lot of them. Like I said, I've traveled a lot. I've been to 49 of the 50 states, like driving, and so I've seen a lot of these things, and I've been over the Hoover Dam a handful of times, and when you get to it, like you can't really do it justice with pictures and video.
Oh, I'm sure. I guess to me, it's like you wonder, like, I guess most people would never consider that, like, there's a secret place under the Hoover Dam to put anything. Like,
it's just a dam.
Like, why would you?
It's just a dam.
Oh yeah, I wonder what's under the dam. Like, no, like people haven't wondered that until you saw Transformers and you find out there might be big fallen robots.
That's what got me going on it. And so now that you're talking about the angels sitting on the black cube, it's like, okay, so what if there really is what if there is that, or some sort of representation of that, whether it's like some sort of portal or a gateway that's in the dam, and then the angels sitting on it, right, protecting it up top. That would make complete sense. One thing that a lot of people don't know, and I know this from having driven through it, somebody told me this and then I saw it myself. When you're driving through the Hoover Dam leading up to getting to the actual part where you drive through it, now there's a bridge. Before, you would literally drive over the actual dam, like on the dam. But now there's a bridge that takes you by it. But the path that you take through there is actually in the mountains. So they've been protecting this place for a long time. In the mountains themselves are the military dug out sections of the mountain and burrowed pits inside of the mountains and put these little tiny strips to be able to see through with like turret guns that point out of these things to protect the dam.
Oh, I think I remember. Wasn't that supposedly like in World War II they did that or something like that?
Because of Pearl Harbor, and they were scared that they were going to come here.
It seems like a pretty doesn't geography is pretty well defense the fact it's like in the middle of the country.
Yeah, right. You would think that that's enough, but you can actually visually see these things when you drive through.
Put those guns closer to the coast if you're trying to protect the Japanese.
Exactly, right? Like, it's almost like they were protecting from within, like they were keeping it from like a certain sect of people that were aware, right? Like maybe there's been a battle between one secret society versus another, and one of them's been trying to expose this place, one of them's not been, because the whole argument in the movie is Optimus Prime is saying that they need to destroy the Allspark because it's a bad thing and it's keeping. But basically, if you look at the stories that are being told through every single religious sect, I'll just leave it at that and not get into the various religions or the occultism behind that stuff. But a lot of them believe that by destroying the cube, it will open up a portal. They believe that destroying the cube will open the portal and release the demons.
Well, that's interesting when you think about, like, over at CERN you have Shiva. So Shiva is the god of destruction, but Shiva's also the god of creation. So it's like through destruction there is creation.
Yes.
That's weird.
Yes.
That's strange. Like that these things, again, it's like if you're talking about opening portals. But I find interesting as well. So one of my first videos I did, and I guess it kind of piggybacked on the first one I did. I mentioned the black cubes, and of course I associated that with Saturn because there's a hexagon on top of Saturn. A hexagon is a 3D cube.
Yeah.
So that's where it comes from.
Yep.
So I knew there was some kind of connection with Saturn to this, and I'm pretty sure that on the star map Saturn is significant placing. But when I looked further into this, I went straight to the end of the memorial plaque. This says, of course, that was the first thing when I realized there's something big here.
Yeah.
They died to make the desert bloom. And I said,
right.
So during the construction of the Hoover Dam, over 100 men lost their lives. I don't think I had a hard time finding the exact number, but it was over.
It's different everywhere you look.
It was over 100. And so when I read that, I'm like, what does that mean?
Sounds like a sacrifice.
That sounds like sacrificial because it's like, because I said, I've worked in the construction industry, and if we ever built a building, and, sad to say, there's been men who've lost their lives on projects we've done.
It happens,
Nobody would ever say they died so this building could be here.
This building could blossom because of the blood they spilled. It's like, wait, what?
That's a tragedy. So we don't, obviously we try to build buildings without anyone dying. So that was a tragedy in itself. And they didn't die for this building to be here.
Yeah.
That's not why they died.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It was an accident that they died. And
they're proud of the fact that these lives were given.
But right. So obviously, again, words mean something when it's written in that sort of way. It doesn't seem like it's almost like, did they die protecting America?
Right.
That's you know what I mean? They died so you'd have freedom. No, they died to make the desert bloom, even though the desert doesn't look like it's bloomed from where I can see anywhere around the dam. And I was wondering if the connection was what really blossomed. Was it Las Vegas? Was it Sin City? Is that what they died for, to make that desert bloom?
So my theory is that the blossoming hasn't happened yet. My theory is that the blossoming happens when the dam breaks and gives birth to whatever it is that's going to come from it. Those are my thoughts.
That's possible. But so I was going to say to finish that thought off is you have So the very first guy to die during the construction of the Hoover Dam, or was the surveying of it, was, I believe his name was J.G. Tierney, and he died in, I think, 1923 or something like that.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
And then and the last guy to die was his son, Patrick Tierney, and they both died on December 20th. I think it was, I saw two different dates, but it was one was saying 13 years later or 14 years later. But they both died on December 20th, right in the middle of Saturnalia.
Right.
And so I saw this tarot card. Of course, obviously, this is the kind of research we end up doing. But
unfortunately, you have to go down some avenues.
On the plaque, there's a man doing this with his arms raised like that, and he's got wheat over top of them, and there's thunder and lightning, and so there's literally a tarot card of a woman doing this, and Saturn's right over top of him, and so Saturn was not just the god of time, which obviously there's a star map to denote the time it was dedicated, but also he was the god of agriculture. So one of his symbols was wheat. And so this guy's doing this. They died to make the desert bloom. You have a father and son die to basically cap off this whole thing. And now obviously, I'll give everyone the opportunity to say, you're reaching, bro, to say this was all just a coincidence.
No, I don't think you're reaching at all.
I mean, it's crazy that it could be that on the nose, but like, to me, that's where you really like, wow. Like,
you want to know what's even crazier than that? To finish that, to add to that story, I don't know if it was the father or the son, because the father died at the beginning of construction, right? I believe it was the father, was buried in a pyramid in Tempe, Arizona. He was some kind of official for the state of Arizona, and he was actually buried in a giant pyramid. You can see it when you drive through the freeways, and it's all gated off and you can't get to it. Yeah, dude, look it up. He was buried in this, like, it's a giant pyramid, and it's just a burial chamber for him and his wife. That's it. That's all that's in there.
Yeah, because obviously that's what we do here in America. We bury people in pyramids.
Yeah, just, normal, just run.
Because obviously I always make the point when you really think about, like, the Great Seal of America, the Norvis Otis Seclorum, where you have the pyramid with the all-seeing eye. Like, when you start to see, like, the references to Egypt here, and it's like, guys, Egypt was. I'm one of those people who believe that a lot of the coolest stuff in Egypt was built before the flood.
I agree with that.
Because I think, like, again, Egypt came from, like, after Noah, and Egypt moved there. So Egypt was a man.
They found that stuff.
Before he was a people. And so, like, the idea that we have references to Egypt here, like the pyramids, like, guys, we were not a colony of Egypt. We were from, like, the Europeans. Obviously, we're descendants of the Europeans who came here.
Yep.
Like, there's no connection there. So why is there the obelisks in the pyramids, if not for all the stuff we're saying is true about this is secret society stuff, obviously hidden in plain sight?
Well, I mean, so one of the theories is that there is some sort of a portal here that connected the Egypt we know with, like, the Grand Canyon, for instance, because I'm sure that you've heard a bunch of the stories about a couple of the what do they even call archaeologists? One of them took a military team there, but they found all of the artifacts there. They found not only did they find artifacts, Egyptian artifacts. They found hundreds of mummies, hundreds, and they also found things that are only native to Egypt, like lotus flowers.
Well,
like
no, I heard that
flowers.
From what I heard, it was like they had mummies and they had things that were Egyptian, but they were also, like, it was more like Tibetan. It was more like there was like a Hindu kind of influence to it. Did you ever hear that? That's what I
haven't heard that.
The interesting part about that was, so if you know, like, some of the is Tibet, that's where the Aryans went, and this is sort of fascinating, is that, so obviously everyone knows the Aryans connected with the Germans from the 30s, and, like, the guy with the funny mustache. The Aryans were not blonde-haired, blue-eyed people. They were people from India.
Right.
Like, that's the people who settled there. Right. And so you find out, but if you know your history a little bit, the Germans were fascinated with Native Americans. Well, the Native Americans claimed to come out of the earth. And then you think about the people who descended, who basically, over in Tibet, they have all the mythology of Agartha and Shambhala, the hollow earth thing. And so, like, guys, I think that those Germans literally thought that that's why there was artifacts like that in the Grand Canyon, because I believe they think there was tunnels that went from all the way from there to here. I'm not even, like I said, I looked that up and I was like, wait a minute, that's why there was a reverence to these people, and there was a connection with these people that came out of the earth. And yeah, like, I mean, as insane as that sounds, yeah, they obviously, those guys believed all that stuff.
The more I learn, the more I believe that that's a very real possibility. I believe that there was some sort of, whether we see it as a portal, like Stargate, where they walk through it and they just miraculously appear on the other side, or whether it was like some kind of super advanced, like, tunnel system that, like, shot them here really quickly. Who knows? I mean, because, a lot of people also say that beneath the pyramids, that most people that do a lot of digging, they get to a point where there's a huge group of people that say that all of the magic is really underground in Egypt. Like, that there is a whole civilization and a whole a giant lake.
Well,
and
like those,
that
like those
all the
depictions,
magic.
like those depictions of like the pyramids are like actually just like gigantic obelisks.
The
Have you
top.
ever seen like? Yeah,
Yes.
they're just the top.
Yes.
Well, which is crazy that like
Yes.
there's that movie Till Dusk Till Dawn that they like they get into this, they go to this bar that was like a vampire pit, and then when the movie ends they show the back of it and it was the top of a big Mexican pyramid.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, and so like, yeah, so there is this weird thing about, like I said, I think the interesting thing is like, okay, so a lot of people, the Native American mythologies are insane. I mean, like obviously it makes no sense to rational thinking people, but it's a strange thing to make up that the people that you descended from came out of the earth. Like that's
so specific.
That's a strange thing to make up. And the Aztecs, I think they believe they descended from. I think believe they came from like 7 different tribes of people who came out of the earth. And when the Aztecs say when they came out of the earth, guess who was here? Giants. The giants who built the pyramids and stuff in Mexico. And it's like those are so oddly specific, especially when all these other Native Americans have mythologies of giants being inside the earth. Like these people didn't really know each other. Like it's a strange thing to make up. I know it's insane, but it's a strange thing to make. Like, why wouldn't you? If you're going to make a story up, I'd probably say we came down from the mountains because we're up near the heavens. Like obviously the inside of the earth is. I mean, obviously it seems dark and scary.
There's so little that we know about all of that, but you're right. Like you're 100% right. So also, I think it's the Navajo. I'm not sure. So nobody hold me to that. But one of those tribes, their story is that the last time there was a cataclysm, that beings came out from inside the earth and grabbed them and brought them in to Hollow Earth, into cities and civilizations that were already there to protect their people from being destroyed by these cataclysms. So they go both ways. Yeah, they go both ways. It's extremely fascinating. And to add to that, and then I'll take it back to the Hoover Dam because there's a couple of things I want to say. But there's also in Arizona there are these mountains called the Superstition Mountains, and supposedly that's where like the Lost Dutchman gold is, and there are a bunch of stories about people going hiking in those mountains because supposedly there are a couple of entrances to Earth, to the inside of Earth, in those mountains. And a long time ago, when I used to have Facebook, I was a part of a group where there was a guy on there and he had a brother that went missing while he was in those mountains. And there was a whole group of people. They were like pitching money together and putting all of these things together to go investigate because, and they did. They went and investigated, and they found a couple of items of his clothing. They found like a hat of his that was like up on a cactus or something. But like they never found the brother, and he was convinced that he had some sort of map that would lead him to Hollow Earth, some sort of cave entrance.
The interesting part is like that if you think about it. So the people who worship the pantheon of gods, they always have these fairy tales, basically, and I mean fairy as in demons, like these stories about how the inside of the earth is this great place. The Bible does not depict the inside of the earth as a great place.
Not at
all. If you think about it, that's where the bottomless pit is under probably the place they're talking about, and then it's like. But if you think about it, if they believe their gods are down there, obviously in their mind it's a great place. Right. So obviously there's nothing good. There's really nothing good down there. And you could imagine, like anybody who would think there would be, obviously they're getting influenced by something that's a very deceptive being saying, "Oh yeah, it's a fantastic place." When you're thinking like,
dude, they're being absolutely deceived. Yeah,
like obviously we know. Like, I mean, just go look in a cave. It's like, how far would you go down before you get like, "Hey, let's turn around. This looks pretty spooky down."
Nope.
I don't think
I'm
it's
a pretty brave guy, but nope.
No. It's there's demons. There's probably monsters. Who knows what's down there?
Dude, yeah, it's not. Yeah, but no, you're 1,000,000% right. And the thing is, the people that follow those gods and those stories, and they show a very real reverence and allegiance to them. They are so absolutely deceived. And it makes sense that they do, because here in the 3D, you know, these are gods and beings that can physically manifest themselves to them. And actually, you know, there's a reason why there were so many different tribes all across the world that have hieroglyphics of the exact same gods and the exact same looking beings. Like, there's a reason why they were like civilizations that supposedly couldn't communicate with each other back then. And that's another topic, because I think that there was way more technology back then than
I believe so. Mm-hmm.
Than we realized. But yeah, from the very beginning, they've been trying to influence men and get men to do their bidding, to ultimately, in my opinion, to ultimately lead us to where we are right now, to build all of these AI systems and quantum computing, because that's the way that they can take full control. So, like, it all ties in, man. It ties together.
Well, I'll give you the final word. Do you want to? What else do you want to hit on the Hoover Dam?
Well, so I was just gonna say, you know, it's fascinating because it's been referenced in so many movies, right? It was in San Andreas. It was in Transformers. It was in Fantastic Four. It was mentioned in Lego, the Lego movie, Lego Dimensions, even. So many shows. Terminator, what is that? Genesis? Terminator Genesis. Yeah. There's way too many to mention. But one of the things that I'll leave it at this, one of the last things that happened, and this is the only time this has ever happened. In 2015, there was I think it was a soccer team in Europe. I don't know exactly, so don't quote me on that. But they projected an image of a goat.
Yeah, I saw that.
Have you seen that? Yeah. Onto the actual wall of the Hoover Dam, which, if you look at it, like I in my video, I kind of post a graphic that shows that as like, because when you're looking at it that way, if you look at the water above, it looks like a head. That area looks like a torso. The roads are arms, and then the two columns coming down below look like feet. So that area below that would supposedly blow kind of looks like what we would consider a womb. And so when you look at it from that perspective, if it blew, and there's also, Madonna went on a tour where there was this symbolism where she had this chair that literally was an exact portrayal of that section of the Hoover Dam.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And she's on it, spreading her legs open, exactly like what I'm saying. It's just like
so it's like it's
none of that's coincidence.
It's gonna give birth at some point. But what's interesting?
That's what I believe.
Yeah. So there was a petroglyph of these, like what the Anasazi put, where there's depicting all these strange beings, including giants, 6-fingered, 6-toed giants. Like, there was one where I overlaid it right over top of the Hoover Dam right there, including almost like a little bit of an angle where you could get the head look like Lake Mead, where it was like.
That's wild.
It lined up really well, and it actually was like there was one of those swirls where it's obviously their depiction of magic or a portal that was right in the same area of where the angels and the star map are.
Dude, that's crazy. I need to watch the rest of your videos on that.
Like, well, you see, you can't you can't make this stuff up, and it really was. It was funny, and I'll leave it at this.
Yeah.
The funny part with me was like, so I made this one video without knowing hardly anything about the Hoover Dam. I was just starting to learn, but I was really keen on studying every little detail that I could. And I remember, so I have maybe a good memory of a selective memory, where I would remember things when I saw them, and I was like, oh gosh, that was that symbol. So that's how when I watched Frozen 2, like I watched a clip of it, I was like, wait a minute, that's the symbol from the Hoover Dam. And so then I researched it all backwards. The same thing where I was like, hey, that symbol is this Anasazi symbol. It looks similar to this. And then I went looking some more, and it's like, that's the whole thing. When we say these things are all connected, if you start to know the language, you can learn to read it a little bit. I think that's where we're at, where we kind of just we're putting the pieces together. But it is interesting, like what is significant about this place? Is the $50 bill prophecy going to come true one day?
Well, and I just, if I can cap on that really quick. So the $50, there was there was the original, like the newer version of the new $50, which showed the dam without water, and then there's the newer $50 that shows the same dam with water coming out of it.
Yeah.
So you can fold them both, and they both.
You know what was wild was this, and this got me in trouble on TikTok because, like I said, I was the dam guy, and when there was the explosion at the Hoover Dam, when the thing exploded last year, interesting, a transformer exploded at the Hoover Dam. Well, that's
a transformer.
Yeah, a transformer, and so on the $50 bill, it was like whatever the date of the dam explosion. I want to say it was like, was it either 7/23 or 7/26 or something like that? Put it this way, you added all the numbers up at the date and you got 50. And I was just like...
No way. I didn't...
No, it was weird. Obviously, the dam didn't explode and the dam didn't burst or anything like that. But it was just like, you can't make this stuff up.
And in 2012, Obama went to go visit the dam, and there are pictures of him in that exact place looking at that exact transformer that blew.
No, you can't even make... Like I said, I'll leave it with one last little dam anecdote about the dam is that there's two highways that intersect over at the Hoover Dam. It's Highway 11 and Highway 93. And if you know about September 11th and there's any connection there, well, the first plane to hit was 11, and then obviously the one that went down in the field was 93. So it's like,
dude,
there's two more things. And again, the coincidence factory is just making coincidences just. The more that you keep up with.
There's too many. And even our discussion just now, like we didn't even get to 5%.
No, well, like I said, we'll definitely have to do a follow up on this. But anyways, Aaron, it was awesome having you on. Tell the people where they can find you at.
Yeah, so I'm only on TikTok. That's the only place that I'm at, and my name on there is Tune Thy Heart. So feel free to check out what I've got going on there, and I'm going to be sharing some of this on there, and that's where we met, and that's the only place that I plan to be for the foreseeable future.
Okay, well, awesome, and yeah, definitely give the man a follow, share his videos, because I'm sure if he's exposing truth, he's going to be shadow banned. So make sure you save his videos, share them. And well, anyways, dude, it's been awesome. Like I said, obviously, we could talk this kind of conversation for like 3 hours, but it's not Rogan yet. We don't have the budget for the Rogan yet.
Not yet. Yeah, we got to keep people interested.
Yeah. But anyways, dude, well, I appreciate you. And to the people at home, like, share, subscribe, all those things. And God bless.
Appreciate that, JT. Take care, man.